funny how you remember things as a child. Everything seems so much bigger and sort of more majestic and sort of more magical. And then when you go back and see the same thing as an adult, it's like it's completely different. It's horrible, or it's broken, or it's ugly, but your child's mind makes things so amazing. I went back to see my 95-year-old grandmother, who's not doing so well now, who's in a nursing home in the country town where I grew up a couple of weeks ago. And I was really overcome by the fact that this town where I grew up in, which was called Wandai, by the way, which means dingo or wild dog, which was ironic because we didn't see any dingoes. But we were chased by emus in the main street, so we are talking, it was a bit of a shock for my kids that are used to this kind of lifestyle. More likely to be chased by an angry backpacker than an emu. But, you know, it was sort of a shock because we drove through all the other country towns nearby and they were all flourishing. And, you know, they'd obviously done well. You know, there's even a wine industry, which is sort of a joke because it's a beer drinking area. I mean, we're talking strictly northwest Queensland. It's Yobbo Central. Well, you know, Farmy Yob, you know, where I'm from, clearly. It's in my bones. But, you know, no one drank wine there. You know, the fact that there are wine growing area is hysterical. I mean, I went to the bottle shop, and the last time I was up there, the only bottle of wine they had was a 1995 bottle of Blue Nun, and it was only there because my mother had left town that year. Hello?
Hi, me.
How cute. So the only bottle of wine that was there was a 1995 bottle of Blue Nun. And it wasn't because they'd put it down to age it. It was because that was the year my mother had left town and no one had bought a bottle of wine since. So everywhere else is flourishing. It's kind of like there's new shops, there's people in the streets and all the other towns I go through. Till I get to Wandai, my hometown, which is famous, by the way, for Carl Rackerman and that toothless yodeler called Chad Morgan. I've always been terrified of becoming part of the also home of Mandy Nolan because there's not very good company. There's actually even a trotter called Wandai's Mate. It's sort of funny, even the really high achieving animals there, when they achieve well, they don't even go fast. They just achieve trotting because you don't outdo yourself in these towns. But it was sad because it was so dead. I'd never seen it so like there was like one cowboy in the street who looked sort of angry and bitter and, you know, probably off his medication. It was, you know, very sad, dry and like a dust ball. There was no soft edges. It was just kind of brutalising, really. It never occurred to me. It wasn't how I imagined where I'd grown up. It had never been like that to me. I looked at it, sadly, most of the shops, or a lot of them anyway, were boarded up. One was called Boyson's, which was an amazing rural country store, which was, I think, a family business that had been there for probably well over 100 years, run by a brother and sister who both never married, who lived well into their 70s and 80s. It was one of those stores where you could still get like alligator skin shoes for £7, you know, 5 years ago, because they'd be stashed out the back. There was stuff from the 50s, like the bolts of fabric my mother had her wedding dress cut from were still there, buttons, amazing. Like a, you know, and it was, you never used money there. You went and you'd say, you just book it up, and Beryl would get a pencil out and she would write it up. And then you'd get a biddle once a year, because that's how farmers live. You know, you've got no money except for once a year. It's sort of like human credit cards, unheard of. But it's sort of sad when I saw that shop closed. I went, wow, that whole era is gone. And I got to the nursing home, saw my poor old Nana, who'd stayed really clear right up till now. She's blind and deaf, sitting in the corner in her chair. She didn't really know who I was. I had to yell at her, which is, you know, kind of awful. The only person she connected with was my daughter Ivy, her namesake. And she held her little hand, you know, really tenderly the whole time we were there. The only thing she really talked to me about the whole time she was there, that she just wanted to die, that the days were endless, that she kept closing her eyes and hoping God would take her and she'd wake up and she was still there in Wandai. I suppose the funny thing in Wandai, neither of them can die, really. As we left, it was very sweet. She didn't really offer a cheek or to kiss me or any of the other kids, but she did to Ivy, which was very gorgeous. And Ivy, I thought she wouldn't, but gave her a big kiss on the cheek, and we left. And I couldn't be helped struck by this incredible sadness when I left this funny little town where I'd grown up, where I had such a romantic sort of love of, but how sad it was that this little old woman of 95 and the town itself were both sitting there praying and hoping to be turned to dust. but it just wasn't happening. You know, at times, you know, when you're sitting with someone who's 95 who clearly doesn't want to be here anymore, and they can have very bad hearing, what do you say? You know, I was, you know, in the end I offered to pray with my grandmother, and clearly I'm not a prayer, but that helped. And then in the end when I left, you know, as I was about to go, I had to say, I hope you die soon. I hope you die in your sleep, would be lovely. The nurses came running. I think they thought I was there to euthanize her. But, you know, I was trying to say something nice. When you're 95, clearly there's not a lot of, you know, there's not like you're going to suddenly snap out of it and go, you know what, I feel awesome today. I'm glad you didn't put the pillow over my head, because I am rocking it today. Thinking of doing a marathon. I mean, clearly, you know, I don't know. I never really know where I stood on that, but that just seems really cruel. You know, if you had an old cat or a dog, you'd have to put them down. Or had a system, you know, rather than a system. It's just like you're making someone suffer. And just lingering. I think I never realised until I saw the town of my grandmother that one of the greatest pains in life is probably lingering on and on and on. That is hell.